Hello YouTube, Millennium X17 here. It is now time to do something that I've had on my mind for about 6 months now, but I really didn't have the opportunity to do until now, and that is time to upgrade my gaming computer. On the screen here, beside the screen, I'm going to put up the overall specs of my computer. The biggest, the highlights, FX8350, air-cooled Enermax. That cooler works pretty good too, as I've got data on that in a little bit here as well, because that works pretty good for an air cooler. I have 32 gigs of RAM. That's the low profile ones. That actually the Enermax has a push-pull fan, and the low profile fits right underneath it, so I don't have to. It doesn't block that RAM slot, so it works good there. The system drive itself that C drives on is solid state, 240 gig. It's a 1600 watt power supply. Even though it really don't need that much, but I figured it'd be the biggest one. I don't even have to worry about if it's going to power it or not. But anyway, Crosshair 5 Formula Z motherboard. It's a Leon Lee PC-P80R. It's the Arma suit. The enormous case. This case is huge. And I love it too, because in a bit, spoiler, when I take the case, take it off, you'll see sometime during this video when I take it off the desk is filthy. There's so much dust, dirt, and cat hair in this room that, yeah, you open up the case, there's nothing inside. There's no dirt or anything inside that gets into the case. So it works great. I love it. But what we're upgrading today is the graphics cards. I've been crossfired for the last 2 years now. It was 2 years ago that I did the update where I put the 280X, crossfired it with the 7970 gigahertz. The only issue being is that the 7970 gigahertz had a lot of droop on the card, and the fans were catching on the 280X, so I flipped them, and they still both droop, but the 280 doesn't have as much droop as the 7970, so I put that one on the bottom. The 7970 is a little bit faster. The gigahertz edition is a little bit faster than a 280X. So I just clocked the 7970 gigahertz down to a 280. So basically, from now on, I'll just refer to it as a 280X. This is all it is two 280Xs, R9 280Xs into, both are by Gigabyte, and both did very well for me. I can't really complain about them, other than the fact that when I bought them, they were a little on the expensive side. But then again, that's always the case with graphics cards. What we are going to be upgrading them to is, if the spoiler to the bottom of this description of this video is any, indication, not one RX480, but hey, why not? 2 Sapphire Nitro Plus RX480 overclock editions. 2 of them. So we're going right back to Crossfire. The interesting thing with these, though, is that they are of a bridgeless Crossfire. They communicate through the PCI slots, which actually makes a lot more sense and cleans up a lot. The install there, you don't have to worry about. Some I've been told certain Crossfire connectors on certain cards in the past had been a little funny. You don't want to just put the bridge all the way down on. Sometimes you have to float them up, and it's just a weird, quirk, if you will. But yeah, we're going to 2 RX480s. That is a significant upgrade from a 280X. And when we get to the benchmarking here, before and after, spoiler, there's nothing shocking that happens to, a Crossfire 280X's versus an RX480, 2 RX480. Nothing, revolutionary is going to, shockingly enough, nothing new will be learned during this video. It's just before and after to show you. And the interesting thing is the data shows a lot of really interesting things. That points me to a very interesting conclusion that I think, it's pretty obvious when you look at the data, especially 3D Mark. We'll get there when we get there. This is the last part I have to record before I can edit the videos and then start uploading them. This talking part is probably going to end up being 2 parts. I think if it's not too long, I'll just make it 1 part. The 3D Mark part will be where I just before and after testing with 3D Mark. I'll get to that when we get to that. We'll talk about that in its own part. A lot of data, a lot of numbers on that part. And then after the fact, I choose 5 games to benchmark before and after. And then I think I throw in a bonus game or two after the fact when the 480s are in. So everything's already in and done, and it's running right now in the corner of this room right now. So it's good to go. It's functioning properly. And we'll get right into it. The reviews on this card. Some people might hesitate because it doesn't have perfect 5-star reviews, but whenever you're looking for computer parts, it's always a language unto itself. You got to kind of read between the lines and figure out where the problems actually is, because when it comes to building computers, there's so many different variables going on that no one rig is the same, and no one's experience with it can ever be directly apples to apples compared equally. You gotta figure out where the issues they might be having is. And there's a lot of 5-star reviews. People say these cards are amazing, best things ever. And then there's a good handful of them. People are having some similar issues that I've seen crop up once you get rid of the ones that just have no, like, I love the ones that are giving them 1-star or 1-egg reviews for something because, oh no, the customer service person I talked to at the time didn't immediately give me what I wanted, or it was like a bad customer service thing. Not to say that's a good thing. That's definitely not a good thing. But that has nothing to do with the card itself. That might be your experience, but you give a bad review on the product and not the company. You got to read between the lines with that. And once you eliminate those, there's 3 big things that I come up with these RX480s that are universal across Amazon and Newegg and a couple other places I've seen. Customer reviews, not professional. Professional reviews are usually pretty good. They only had really one major complaint with this, and we'll get to this, the third one that the customers are complaining about too, which is kind of interesting to me. This card crashes when overclocked, okay? It's the overclock edition. It's already overclocked. Well, here's the fun part. I don't care about overclocking. So, for me, it's already good to go. And Sapphire themselves have already overclocked this to the point where you can plug it in, it's already overclocked for what a stock RX480 is capable of, and they've overclocked it to the maximum point where it's stable and hot, straight, and normal. Nothing weird is happening. And for me, great. I don't care about overclocking. So there's point 1. Point 2, a lot of people are complaining that this card overheats quite badly, and it's also paired somewhat with the third complaint of the fans. A lot of people complaining that the fans are quite noisy, so they're thinking, well, maybe the fans aren't that good, yada yada. Listen, overheating has a lot to do. There's so many different factors involved in that. What's the temperature of the room in which your computer's running in? Obviously, if you're in the Mojave Desert and your air conditioner's broken and it's 115 degrees, it's going to affect how well your computer runs. Like, we're in upstate New York, it's December, my computer's right in front of the window, or I still have my air conditioner in the window, and the key would, so there's, my room's maybe, I'd say, mid-60s, the house is heated to 70 degrees, so that keeps, it just kicked on above me, by the way, so it's like heated to 70 and it's fluctuates, but it's, I'd say my window, with my windows the way with my air conditioner still in, I'd say my room is a mid 60s degrees Fahrenheit in temperature. So with that, okay. And then there's other factors as well. There's 1,000,001 factors. Another big thing I would say is how big is the case that you're putting this card into? How, is it a small case, is tight? A lot of people say it's big. I'll get there when we get there, but it's not. My old cards are actually bigger. But these cards, a lot of people say, oh, they're really tight in my case. Well, how small is your case? That would obviously, a card that, if there's less space in the case, there's less air and it'll easier to heat up. So obviously it'll generate heat quicker in the case. How well does air circulate throughout your case? Again, my case is the Leon Lee PC P80R. Google that. Look at it. Anodized red aluminum case. Thing is freaking amazing. It was expensive too. I think it was like $600 something that I bought it from. I bought it from Newegg, and then they said it was discontinued immediately thereafter, and there's no other ones I've seen on the internet that have popped up at all. So an amazing case with the ATI Crossfire X cutout window on it. I love that case. That case is amazing. It really does. That was a great purchase. And I think that was even, honestly, I think that was the first part I ever purchased when I was building the computer. But yeah, so people are complaining that it overheats. I could keep going with that, but again, you get the point. My room is a relative 60, mid-60s, maybe mid to upper 60s degrees Fahrenheit in temperature, so even if it's in the middle of the summer, it's in front of my air conditioner, so my air conditioner will be going. So that, okay, there's that, and a lot of other people complain that the fans are very loud. Oh my god, they're so loud. What are you expecting, really? If you're buying a performance video card like this, obviously not the highest end of the highest end, but still up there in terms of performance, what you can expect. What are you planning on doing with it, really? And is it going to be so loud that, it's going to... If noise is a factor, then I don't think you want a gaming computer. With that said, I can now confirm after the fact, because they're already in there, the computer's running right now. You probably can hear the furnace above my head better than you can hear the computer. At idle, overall, even under load, it's about the same as what my old cards did. So it's like, again, I have, right here, I have these Logitech headsets, so it's like, it doesn't really matter to me at all. So, again, I don't know what people were really complaining about when they said, oh no, the fans are loud. They work fine. Interesting fact on that, we'll get to that towards the end of this. But nonetheless, relatively straightforward for as far as swapping graphics cards in and out. Again, my case is great. I love it. I blow it out with some compressor. Nothing. There's no dust or anything in there. It's just clean on the inside. Outside, it's dirty as all hell, but in the inside, it's great. I'm just like, this is fantastic. So great. The old, again, I can't complain about my old cards. I love them very much. The biggest problem that I had with this install is my fat sausage fingers right here. When my case has these thumb screws with fatter heads on them, so that you can actually finger tighten them down. They have the head for Phillips, but they also have those so you can finger do them, and that's all I ever do. But my fat sausage fingers, when I'm trying to fiddle those screws in and out of the graphics cards, are like, that's the part where I have the most trouble, because you're right up against the outside of the frame, and you want to give it a full like this in order to get the thing started, and all you have the space for with my fat fingers is a little this, and it's like you just can't. So that's probably the hardest part I had. The LEPA G1600 1600 watt power supply. It's a modular power supply. So I was able to pull one of the whole power leads out. The power lead, it connects into the back between a 16 pin, I think it is, connector, and it comes down to two 6-2 split connectors, and then one of those split connectors was powering one of the old cards, and the other one was powering now I just have one of those splits going to two different cards, and it works great. I love the design of these cards too, with the fact that the power pins are on the end of the card, not the top. It actually makes it look really sleek. I like these cards a lot because they are ultimately very sleek looking cards. Not that it really matters at the end of the day, but it's another feature that I liked, and hey, great, I liked everything else, so I went with it. At this point in time, I actually compared. I brought the RX480 over and held it over the two cards in the case, and when you hold the RX480 over the top of these cards, you could realize that the RX480 is a solid maybe a smidge under 2 inches longer than these 480s. So I'm like, again, how people think they're so big is a little bit of a mystery to me. Obviously, I have a ginormous case, so that kind of helps the fact that I've got real estate for days in that case. But after I compare it, I button everything up, throw it on my desk, I turn it on, and this is where minor issue on my part is I didn't have the driver CD ready to throw in, so I wasn't surprised that it got stuck on, it was like the Republic of Gamers screen flashed up where it says F2 to hit BIOS, and I'm pushing F2 and nothing happens. So I can't be too terribly shocked about that. The problem was, it was slightly concerning. I wasn't terribly alarmed by it, but it's slightly concerning is the fact that there's a scratchy noise when I fire up the computer. Both of them light up, both of them fire right up, and all of a sudden there's this weird scratchy noise. And all I can remember is back when I first got the RX480, it's not the RX480, it's the 280X, excuse me. When I got that one, I put it in, it was the same thing. It was this fan scratching on the back of the card. The 7970 was scratching on the back of the 280X. And I'm thinking, that's weird because these have back plates on them, so I'm thinking, maybe, maybe not. I took the side panel off. While it's running, I kind of split them apart, and sure enough, it stops, and I'm like, okay, well, shit, now I'm going to have to deal with that, and then there's the other thing. So, okay, I hard shut down the computer and bring them down. Now, my thought on this is that I just really realized for a second here that the it's at this point in time you can also notice to see how dirty my desk is. So I need to dust, I know, but then again, you know how that goes. Either which way, I remember reading tons of articles. These graphics cards are PCIe 16X 3.0 slot cards, I think they are. And my Crosshair 5 Formula Z is only 2.1, 16X 2.1. So I was a little concerned with that at first. My research that led me down this path was the fact that it doesn't make any difference at the end of the day. Let me just consolidate it down as easily as I could possibly make this argument. It doesn't make any difference. Whether it's a 4X slot, a 16X, an 8X, these cards, even though regardless of how much performance they put out, these don't actually put out enough data that they are limited by, oh no, a 4X slot. So, knowing that those top two slots are the 16X slots, and then the next one down is, I think it's two 8X slots I've gotten this. I honestly would have to look it up, but I think it's two 8X slots. So my immediate thought was, so I pulled the computer down, I was like, I'm going to take the one card from right on top of each other and just slot it down. And of course, it's at this point in time, I look and the fans on these cards are protruding the exterior of the shroud by the slightest margin, so it's just enough to scratch on it. None of the fans or any of the back plates actually looked like they had any damage on them, so I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. They didn't even show any scratch marks or anything. I couldn't see anything, so I wasn't too terribly concerned with it. I put the third one down, and then I jerked around with those screws again for another 30-something minutes. I think I cut the camera off because it was like, do you really want to see me just jerk with screws? It's just frustrating. I actually had to take a walk for a minute. Came back, chose a different screw in a different hole, and I got to that one. It was the last one, and just went right in. I was like, okay. But nonetheless, back up, booted up again. The scratchy noise is gone. Okay, that slotting them, instead of right next to each other, slotting them down, totally took care of it. And the moment I fired up the computer, I immediately threw open the door on the front of the thing and popped open my CD drive, which almost never gets used. I think this is the only reason I would use the CD drive, is I threw the Sapphire disc. I know everyone's like, download them off the website, so therefore, you know, you'd get the most recent driver. Once I did, at the same time I'm throwing in this disc, Windows kind of like boots up to like a safety mode where both screens are in a they're mirrored. They're the same thing. It's in some sort of safe mode. And the moment it does this, it's like, oh, drivers are being installed. So it didn't even take them from the disk. It just took them immediately from the, you know, it searched the internet itself. Basically, I went to the Sapphire website, downloaded the drivers. It's like, oh, well, you already have the latest drivers. And it's like, okay. I restarted the computer, and it fired right up. Normal, nothing wrong, everything's great. Displays are back to the way they should be. I fired up 3D Mark, and after it thought about it for a second, it pops up the system information and showing two RX480s. So, great. Wrap-up notes on this is that after this point in time, I installed MSI Afterburner. I just was curious about the temperatures of the cards, because everyone's like, they overheat. Oh no. So I installed Afterburner. I was just watching the temperatures for a while, and they idle at around 48 to 50 degrees Celsius in my room. Under load, spoiler alert, during Firestrike Ultra, is it Ultimate or Ultra? Ultra? I think it's Ultra. Firestrike Ultra, they maxed out at 78 degrees Celsius. So, again, I don't know what anyone's talking about when they say, oh no, they overheat. No, they don't. Again, if you overclock them further, and you know what you're doing when you're overclocking, you overclock them further, do the coolers then maybe get overwhelmed? Perhaps. Maybe then the fans aren't good enough. At the stock settings, I'm not seeing this issue whatsoever. I installed the Tricks software from Sapphire because I wanted to control the colors of the LEDs, the RGB aspect of this, and I've set them, I downloaded it, and I understand a lot of people say it sucks, and after installing it, I can understand why people say it sucks, because it does. I set the LEDs to blue at 50%, and then that's like, I'm looking around the software, and it's just, I don't really want to screw with anything, but at the same time, I'm looking, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh, fan health check, and I'm thinking, hey, that's, you know, that's not bad. That sounds like a good thing to check out. I run the fan health check, and it says I failed. Both fans on both cards. Here's the thing, though, and if anyone knows more about this, then maybe you should contact me through either this comment below or PM me or hit me on Twitter at MillenniumX17, because I don't think this is actually an issue. I think because the software sucks, it sees 4 fans and only 2 spin up. Oh no, there's a problem! Even though it identifies that these are crossfired cards, it sees half the fans aren't working, and that's where it goes, and it freaks out, fans have failed, contact your supplier, or whatever it says. It's like, I don't honestly think that it's honestly an issue, because I can confirm both fans are in fact spinning, all 4 fans are working, spinning, and again, I've already done 3D Mark. Gone through Firestrike and Firestrike Ultra and Cloud Gate and Skydiver. Again, the hottest temperature I've seen out of these cards is 78 degrees Celsius. The old ones got up to like 95. So that's a totally different subject altogether. My old cards, for whatever reason, were not happy with 3D Mark whatsoever. But the screen was like jittering. Like, it was kind of like, But we'll get there when we get there. Well, you'll see it when you see the 3D Mark video. If you see the 3D Mark video, it's quite, okay. But the new cards were fine with 3D Mark. They don't overheat. They work great. It's been 2 days since I've put them in. They're working fine. I'm loving them. And with that, it's pretty much said and done. You know, it's good to go. I did the Steam VR test thing, and it loves my computer. It said I was well above the required limits for VR, which is funny because by the time I actually buy a VR headset, A, they'll be cheaper, B, they will require less horsepower altogether, and C, there will actually be games to play for VR, hopefully. There's nothing like spending $600 to $800 on a headset and then only being able to use tech demos. But nonetheless, I digress. The next video is about 3D Mark, where I go into a lot of interesting data that pertains to specifics of my computer, and it shows the very next path of upgrade I should be taking. The data does not lie. And then after that, I've got a strange mix of games to test it with this, and the reason for that is I don't do this professionally. Therefore, I do not have Rise of the Tomb Raider or Hitman or any of the other commonly used games now. I only have a handful of games. Some of them I don't even have installed, like Crysis and Crysis 3 I didn't have installed, so I didn't use them. I used a really weird mix, and then I threw in a surprise in as well. But you'll see that when we get there. And until next time, guys, have yourselves a good day.